Anyway, good morning. A few technical difficulties. We're all on now. So can I get a motion to, I don't want a motion. Do we want any changes or additions to the agenda, Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. 11A5, I would request that we defer that to our June 3rd MPC meeting, please.
Okay. Somewhere in here we should add, I don't know, we want it under planning and development or under infrastructure, or under community services, but Alberta Beaches and 2 summer villages are state of emergency they declared. Let's put it under Trista, probably. Community services, B1, 9B1.
Joe, I've got it.
Yep.
Okay, some under infrastructure, if we could put it Parkland Cattle Company. And I'd like to, I asked yesterday, I phoned in to see what our agreement, what our road use agreement is with them, and how we're progressing, because there's significant damage done.
So let's go
6.
AB1, 6B12 or 6B2.
Yeah.
Parkland Cattle. I think I've had anything else I had. We're going to talk about Wednesday. Lloyd, sorry.
Mine could wait till Wednesday, but the ones I'd like to get some contact information regarding Pembina River management, the log jams that are causing undermining of roads. And I would think CN would be concerned because there's major log jams at the trestle just south of San Guido. The other one I'd like is information on the Rochford Lagoon, because it appears to me, and I don't know, but there's significant amount of effluent or sewage or whatever going into that lagoon. And I was under the understanding that that lagoon was built for the Rochford Village residents. And the other concern is the landowner through which the discharge goes, that creek is never dry. And is it as a result of the amount of sewage that we're taking in from other areas? Or is it just, I mean, we can attribute it to the environment right now, but I just want some information.
Okay, we should probably, let's discuss them both, and then if the information has to come back on for next week, we will, but let's bring them up today. So let's put them, same thing. We go B1, B3, B13 and B14. So 1 would be the log jam, whatever, 3 would be the log jam, and 4 would be the Rochford Lagoon. Anybody else? Staff? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended, please? Nick? Anybody opposed? Okay. Into the adoptions of the MBC and County Council minutes of May 6th, 2020. A motion to Steve. Anybody opposed? Okay, good. Infrastructure and planning services.
Okay, Mr. Chair, this here's just some correspondence due to Phase A of the Sandy Beach to Onaway Force Main line that we're looking at getting installed. It's just correspondence from Summer Village of Sandy Beach and Sunrise Beach that they want to be part of the project. And that just the letter that was sent to Alexander First Nations with no response yet to date. It's just here for information, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Could I get a motion to accept the, we need one motion for all of them, eh? Because they're all retaining the same thing. George, accept them for information. All opposed? Joe, what was that little email that got sent out yesterday? Is Mr. Yakubchuk just getting sick and tired of waiting for First Nations to say anything?
Yeah,
and now they're
exactly where the provincial government wants to know, right? To make sure, and that they don't want to be part of it. And Merv must have been in a little bit of a bad mood when he responded to that email. So yeah, it just was sent to us for information. Mike's just trying to stay on him to make sure things get resolved.
All right. B1. Correspondence from the Summer Village Sunrise Lake Sedan water flow issues. And I take it this is
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I can speak to that one. We received a letter from the Summer Village with a request into looking into the drainage issues, or what potential issues there could be with the drainage between flowing from Anderson Lake to Duchesne Lake and into Sandy Lake. I know this has been discussed a number of times, but they've just formally asked for a council. They're genuinely concerned with the water level in Sandy Lake, especially in light of other lakes in the area and have that seem to have rising water levels, but theirs are not. They're asking that the county become involved with them to inspect to see what kind of drainage improvements or what can be done between those two lakes to see if the discharge is being held up. I can speak a little further to that as well. On our road tour yesterday with Mike and Joe and Brian, we did stop by that area and looked at the culvert that is exiting Anderson Lake into the drainage course that eventually leads into Sandy Lake. Right now, the waters are basically equalized on either side of that roadway. The culvert is about, I would say, half to 2/3 full, but there's very little flow getting through because the water levels are up. So if something's to be done, I think we need to look at what is, the drainage course between that point and Sandy Lake to see what improvements or beaver dams or grade improvements could be done to make that flow through a little more, I guess. So it's a big issue because those are two big bodies of water. It's not a matter of just pulling a cork in a bathtub and draining from one to the other. It becomes a larger issue than that. So it's something I think if we are going to jump into, we should study it to know what the right answers are going to be.
sorry about that. Okay, so for now, go ahead, Nick.
Just as some more content, I talked to Mayor Elselman just on Sunday with regards to some of the concerns, and their belief is that not only is there a problem with beavers and the actual road, how could I say, the water flow from Anderson to Sandy, and they think there needs to be some, for lack of a better term, some removal of some farmland that was kind of filled in there. So they want to make sure that that flows there, and they also believe that that culvert going from Anderson to like across the road there on that curve, they feel that culvert's too high. So I'm not sure if that level. I know that road is, the water goes right up to that curve, but like I said, I'm not sure if you say it's only flowing 2/3 or half. We may have to address that issue also. But at the same time, do we have to have Alberta Environment's approval if we do any changes to any water coursing in that area?
Typically, that answer is yes. If you're going to be adjusting an elevation of one lake to another, like changing the water level, Alberta Environment would be involved as a Water Act approval. And that's why I say I think it needs to be studied, because there are two large bodies of water. It wouldn't be fair for any of us to go in there and just cut it open and drain one to fill another. I think we'd find ourselves in fairly hot water if we did.
Okay. Also, he mentioned that if there's any costing between the summer village of Sunrise Beach and Sandy Beach, they would be willing to partner in any cost. So, like I said, that's something to consider.
Okay, excellent.
So is there some ditch been filled in there? Is that what I'm hearing by a farmer that could be blocking some of the flow?
I think it's in that backcountry, Joe, is what they were talking about. So kind of just north of Bell Vista in there. Yeah. I know there's some hay fields and stuff like that, and then they figured that what happened is that when it was drier, the farmer filled it in a little bit so he could gain access and be able to seed and hay that whole portion, even where the creek bed was. So they feel that he raised it a bit, and that's what's kind of stopping the flow or slowing the flow.
Yeah, it's flowing. Like, we checked the leaving Anderson, and then we also went down by Bell Vista yesterday, and it is flowing there, but it is slow, right? So maybe there is some blockage, because it's really backed up on the, I guess it'd be the south side of the road. It's coming through the culverts, but it's kind of sitting there and spreading out now. So it's not getting away. There's definitely some blockage to the south there.
And I think that's where the blockage is in that south side there.
Okay.
So that's where I think it's almost twofold, guys, if I can interject a little bit. So if there's a defined drainage path there, finding out if there's obstructions, that's one thing. But if you're wanting to lower the culvert and lower the elevation of Anderson, that's where you're going to get into the Water Act approval. But as far as cleaning ditches and whatnot, I think we can do that, but we should, I guess, I call it a study, but a survey at least of the area, so we know, okay, if there's any improvements, exactly what can be made that's going to help or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
yep.
Since this keeps coming back to us all the time, why don't we get a cost from somebody? Whether use one of our engineering firms we use all the time, or get somebody smaller like Bolson or one of them that could do it and not charge us as much, and just see what they would, what it would be to do that area. And then if they're willing to pay some money, maybe we should just do it. We've talked about it for 2 years now, again, and they're just going to keep coming back and hounding us unless we actually get some answers. We're not going to get answers unless we actually go out there and have something. So can I get a motion that we get administration to get somebody going there and give us costs? Nick? Anybody against? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Where are we at? Parkland Cattle Company. Your mic's not on.
Yeah, I'm just, so listen, I've been driving there quite regularly because I've got a lot of complaints from residents at the amount of truck traffic that has been on that road. And lately, there's been significant amount of cattle liners going in, and they were hauling straw in earlier on in the year off of fields from where the gravel pits are at. He bought a lot of big straw bales, and they were kind of wet because when he went down Range Road 21, you could just see all the dualies, and then he went on 540 and then across the highway on 540 to proceed. But in the meantime, we have about 1.5 miles. We used to have close to 2 miles of blacktop there, but there's not much blacktop left on there. The road coming to Highway 43, the first about 150 yards off of there, it's just punched right down. There's nothing there. So, over the years, we probably had $1 million of infrastructure put into this, and it's gone. Like, I don't know how we're going to resolve this, but if this is going to continue to happen from this producer, I'd like to know, do we have a road use agreement? Who's going to cover these damages? Because it's, that's probably the densest population on that road we have in the county. And, here the residents are all looking, what the heck is going on here? So here we got a major road with all these trucks that they never had before. These new guys came in, and how are we recovering the costs of this year repair bill that's going to be significant?
Yeah, I'll just quickly address as well. We have been looking to see if there's a road use agreement in place, and there doesn't seem to be one there. However, there was and Joe can help me with this maybe a little bit. I think there was a development agreement at one time where they have committed to build some road in the future, which I think is 1 mile to the west of where they're at. But yes, there is significant damage. I do agree.
Road.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe. Oh, sorry. I thought.
Yeah, I guess in regards to that, I talked with Joe Foster this morning from Parkland Cattle. He's ready to fire up to build that road immediately. We just got to get an easement from one landowner. He owns some of the land there. We have to get an easement on just some backsloping agreements because they got to remove the fence. And so as soon as I told him that I'd have that produced today, and I get out and get it signed so he can get started building that road. Because I said we're getting beat up. He's getting, the public in that area just hates him with a passion. He knows that. He wants to get it resolved. So I told him I'd work with him on this. And then I'll also talk to him about helping to contribute to fix some of that road that he's damaged. I think he's trying to cooperate. He's running a big cattle operation in there. We got farmers, big farmers like that all over the county that we're dealing with the same issues with. Bad thing is we got only asphalt to get him in there. He's landlocked pretty hard. And so I agree. He's willing to assist with anything we need.
Well, and that's great. The only thing is that, again, I reiterate the fact of the population. You take a look at the subdivisions that we have in here that's pretty dense population. And it's right in their we don't have right in front of their face. And so the amount of calls that I'm getting quite a few of the calls because a lot of people phone in and they get an answering machine, so they phone me directly. So that was. Other than their taxes, that road and seeing it destroyed, because we put a lot of money into the Lakewood and into Heather Downs and in Spruce Lane and Laurentian Heights and now Diamond Country. So it's either they come 540 or they come down Range Road 30 because Parkland County won't let them cross anything on there. So the sooner we can get an agreement to get that road built, and then we take it over to 33 and pass all the problems over to Joe and his range road, because that, I mean, there's good pavement to the south, but we're going to have to deal with a whole plan. And maybe there's an opportunity for some contributions there as well.
Yeah, I did mention to him about Range Road 32 also, right by 633. It's a real boiled mess there.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll look at seeing if he'll contribute to fixing some of that too. Right as you come off heading south, it just boils up there. It's a real mess right now. It's soft coming off the highway there. So we got to do something there. It's just going to move the problem.
Well, how much damage can these guys continue to do before we got to get something done here? Like, this is not, and it's happening on a daily basis. How much cattle does this guy have? There's trucks coming and going.
I heard 6,000 head in there, but I don't know if that's true.
40 trucks a day are going in there, and like that. And this is blacktop that is, which we have road bans on. Where are guys? Like, they should be there checking this out.
We actually seen yesterday when we were out doing some tours, Greg, Mike, and I, and Brian, we did see their hay truck. He's running a tri-drive, and he only had 8 bales on it. Yeah. Joey says, I'm trying to follow the weight restrictions, which he's probably at 75% with a tri-axle with only 8 bales on it, and it was straw. So what do you do? He's trying to comply the best he can.
Lloyd?
Well, I think Lauren has a legitimate complaint there, and we have a precedent where we did have an operator contribute significant amount of in-kind gravel hauling in Lac St. Anne already. And the number of cattle, if this guy has 6,000 head, the number of cattle were, I'd say, significantly less, but it was damage that was caused during improvement to their facilities, and they did it, no questions asked. So I think this guy should be held accountable.
Ross?
Well, with 6,000 head, it's like he pasturing his cows somewhere, and I think that should be looked at. He's obviously, I would think, is an intensive livestock operation, which we can do road use agreements then with. That has to be checked out again.
Matt, was that you?
Yeah, that was me. If he meets our threshold of intensive livestock operations, then technically, according to the land use bylaw, he needs development permits, and I could, in theory, if it all lines up, issue a stop order on him and force his hand on some of this, if that's a direction that you'd like me to look into.
I don't know if I want to go that way, but people should be, I don't know. If everyone else has to go by the land use bylaw, why is one guy not?
Lloyd?
Did we not go and look at that property about 2 years ago, and at that time we were assured that the individual was going to start doing some work to alleviate the situation. So this is 2 years down the road and nothing has been done.
Well, I don't think we want to stop guys from hauling feed in. There's a little bit of a history there that wouldn't help out the matter. But at the same time, we need a road use agreement. But on the other hand, we need to let him get this other road done and force him so we can get him out a shorter way to some pavement, right? Where he's not going through as much as Mr. Olsvik wants to push him through all of my big subdivisions. That's fine, but I keep my roads in better shape because I actually drive them and talk to you guys. So we better push him over another mile and see if we can get him. See if we can get him out. And maybe that's the one thing we haven't looked at, is maybe taking him out 32 to 633. That's the lowest population, the lowest traffic, the lowest everything. Maybe that road just needs to be upgraded and dust controlled. I think there's only 3 residents on that road where he would pop out at. There's Burnt's, Vermanski's, and Hearns on that whole piece of road. Where you go the other way, and you've got way more population, narrower roads, and way more traffic because it's coming straight out of the beach. So maybe we're not even thinking the right road to get them out on right now. There's no use trying to send them through that muskeg on 33 up on the county line until that road's totally rebuilt. And that hot mix meets hot mix. That would take him away from Golden Glen, Loudon Park, Diamond Country, Heathers Downs, all of them. It would take him right by nobody, basically.
Yeah.
Take him by Dave Formanski's 500 head of cows. So I think that's what a person should look at. But let's get him, kick him in the ass, get him to do that, and ask him what he is. He should be doing some restitution to 540 on what is that, Lauren, between 25 and 24? 25 and 43?
The road that was built when we put the water line through that connected the two, because it was an undeveloped road right away, was built and it's standing up, and it's gravel, and that starts at 25. Well, it's just before 25 it starts, but through those subdivisions there, that blacktop is pretty much destroyed. And the other thing that they were concerned about is that this is going to continue on 540, until this happens, when it does dry out, that, in the meantime, he better put dust control down that whole road. And that's what the residents were asking for. As much as they hate the calcium, they hate the dust more. Is this I'm not sure, but is this the largest livestock producer in our county right now? With those numbers, it sure sounds like it. I don't know.
I don't know if he's got them all in our county at the same time. He's got them scattered all over Hell's Half Acre. So he's got them some in Yellowhead County, some in our county, some in Parkland County. And he's got them, I think he's got them spread over our county now too. He used to just have them kind of tucked in there. So
yeah, well, it sounds like he's growing.
But there's no use fixing that far end. If you dust control that far end of 540 there, or between 25 and the highway, make him put dust control in there now. There's no use doing anything else with it till we get him another way out.
That's why I was asking, Mr. Chairman.
And then when we get him another way out, then we can grind that up and do whatever with it. But don't.
I'm talking about the gravel portion.
Yeah.
The asphalt portion, we're going to have to grind that up and fix it.
Okay, the log. Well, I think that's just accept that for information. I don't know. We're not doing. There's not a motion in there. Well, even if we have, what do you want to make the motion? That motion's going to be that we want them to build a road between 25 or 30, 31 and 32 to get out. We want them to come up with a.
Well, I think we need to take some action because obviously we have to have consequences over this types of damages. So, I mean, the consequences are you get a road agreement and, he's going to have to stand tall on the repair of these damages. And that's the action that we need to have a discussion. Where is he going and what's the future bill going to be? So whoever is tasked with that, let's get that moving, and let's and I'd like to have a motion to start having conversations so that we can remedy the situation. So we need to have some. That's the motion that I'd like to make.
Did you get that, Cindy? Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, Lloyd, you wanted to talk about some log jams.
All I'm looking for is, I know the river isn't our responsibility, but I think it's just doing our due diligence to make sure that whoever's responsible for the erosion of banks along the river is aware of the situation, that the log jam now is probably a quarter-mile long, and the river is developing 3 channels. And of course, how a river goes, the outside erodes quicker than the inside. But in this case, it's because of the fact of the log jam that the outside is the most prominent channel. So all I'm looking at is, I'm willing to contact whoever it is, or our staff can contact them. I know Environment has been flying over the rivers here, and obviously, I don't know what they're looking at, but I would also think CN would be concerned because it's coming close to their piers, or whatever they call them, the trestle cement pads that hold up the trestle. So that's all I wanted to know. And I did ask if anybody had contacts with whoever the powers might be with respect to the Pembina River. So that's all it is, just to do our due diligence.
Okay, I can maybe add to that, Lloyd. So yeah, Alberta Environment would be the controlling arm in that area. So administration can contact them and initiate some discussions there to see if there's anything they can do, or if there's anything we can help with. We can also reach out to CN to see if they're having concerns, because certainly having their backing will help us there with Alberta Environment. So we will make contact and initiate there. Just to clarify, you're mainly right now, you're looking at the Pembina is the river of your concern, right? Okay. Or is the little paddle part of that as well? Pembina. Okay.
Sorry. The Pembina, the little paddle is the little paddle, and it's going to do what it's going to do.
Okay.
Do you want a motion on that, or is it information?
I think information is fine.
Okay.
And Greg's answered my question, so that's good.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept that for information then? Lloyd, all in favor? I mean, all against? This hands up, hands down. There we go. Okay, the Rochford Lagoon.
Me again, just I guess it's more information. Historic. The lagoon was built before my time, but there is increasing concerns from the amount of use and activity that's going into that lagoon. And I know we've been monitoring what kind of products have been going in, and they're all good. But just so I guess for me or for the county, that there's nothing with respect to volumes that are unexpected according to the initial implementation of that lagoon. So I guess you'll have to bring up information or whatever.
You're not on. No. Well, I can hear you, but the rest of the world won't be able to hear you. Radio Land can't hear you. Anyway, you're waiting for Trinity to bring in some volumes, I take it? That SRS is there, right? No. I'm just guessing everything you're going to say. What's that?
Okay, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just waiting for Trinity to bring in our data for the last month that it's been in the SRS unit's been there at Rochford, and we'll be able to determine the volumes from that. As far as that lagoon, we do have a discharge on that lagoon that we can discharge yearly as per Alberta Environment. It has never reached capacity, but we do discharge every year. So as far as effects to the Rochford residents, I think there's nothing to be concerned there at this time. So like I said, we can discharge and it's never reached capacity. So we are planning on cleaning that lagoon this year as part of our mapping through the Darwell Lagoon Commission. We're going to try and clean that lagoon up along with Cherry Hill, all our lagoons in the county, to clean the sludge out of them. That's the biggest issue at Rochford, is lots of sludge in there in that one cell.
Yep.
So do we have any historic, like when the lagoon was built, whenever it was, what the purpose of it was for and the capacity and with respect to accepting more waste?
It was built for, no doubt, that's what it was for the low pressure system in Rochford. Absolutely. The reason we do allow septic trucks to haul in there, part of it is for our own residents, so they don't have to discharge it on their land. They're paying the $20 for every farmer out there, or any improved property is paying a lagoon fee, which assists with that. So everybody really in that area has use of that lagoon. That's what it's there for.
I don't want to get into an argument about, it's not the use of the lagoon by local Lac St. Anne residents. It's the visibility of the Coleman vacuum trucks that are, in some days, numerous. That's what the issue is.
Well, I guess if council wishes, we can, that material is coming out of Whitecourt, which was agreed to back 3 years ago, I believe, with Woodlands County to allow to take that effluent. If council wishes, we can say no at this time, no more, unless it's within the county.
I don't want to go that direction. I just want to know the volumes that are coming in and what, if there's a detrimental long-term effect to that lagoon. If we're cleaning the sludge out, it should be fine.
So I've produced a report here from the 30th of March on estimated volumes that are going into that lagoon, and it's just 1,000 cubes. Burt Septic is all local, and Collins is from Woodlands County, and Rob Core Adventures, they're from Woodlands also.
Well, I guess the concern is we don't want to wreck our infrastructure by another municipality using it or overload our infrastructure. So That basically. And the other thing too is you should, if you're talking to the residents, so is remind them that we are getting paid for that to go in there too. It's not a.
I realize that. I have told them that, but they just want to know basically how much. And if we're doing the maintenance that we're going to do this year, the volume actually enhances the ability of that lagoon to work.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do the sludge removal, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe, I just got one question in regards to, so based on the total amounts being deposited into that lagoon, 1,000 cubes isn't going to be a problem, I take it. But when I took a look at the report here, Joe, and it looks like, the majority is call and vacuum service. I understand we get compensation for that, but is there a question, and the reason they're coming in here is because of our rates? Are they lower than?
No, the reason we got into,
or is it more geographical is what I'm talking about?
No, what happened was it used to all go to the town of Whitecourt, but their waste treatment plant couldn't handle it. Woodlands came, well, actually, owned them. Waste because they have a mechanical treatment. I don't know why this thing keeps cutting off.
There, it's better now.
Okay, so Woodlands approached us 3 years. Mike and myself were involved in the meeting. They came to us. What happened was the town of Whitecourt had refused to allow Woodlands County effluent into their treatment plant for capacity reasons was the biggest thing. I know that Whitecourt is just doing an upgrade, I believe, right now to their wastewater treatment facility for something like $8 million. It's quite an intense improvement. But that's why they came to us. We offered them. Actually, there was next to no effluent in the Rochford Lagoon. So we allowed it to be hauled in there. They pay the same fee as all residents would pay for every load that comes into that lagoon. And that's the reason they actually came to us. It was just to accommodate Woodlands County ratepayers, basically.
Would
educate me, just to educate me, because I only know that sewage goes in, sewage comes out. But I'm curious, like, this is 1,000 total cubes. Is that what it is? So, like, the 26th of May, Cullen vacuum trucks unloaded 0.10 cubes. So, how do you get that?
We had some issues with the grinder pump there. So what happened was, that's why it only registered a half a cube, and something got caught in the grinder pump and it wouldn't turn, so it wouldn't allow flow into the lagoon. So that's what happened there. Okay, so I mean, there's a number of them, like 0.21, 0.044.
Yeah.
So what happened, there were some issues with the pumps at those locations. So then eventually it does get pumped through once we get there, clean it out, and allow it to flow through.
So on a regular Cullen vacuum truck, what are the number of cubes that they would haul? Because I don't think they would come with a half load, would they?
You can see most of them are at 11 cubes, 10 cubes, 11 cubes, some at 4 cubes, 8 cubes, 6 cubes.
1 cube.
Yeah, and that's where there was some problems with the SRS unit.
So,
because every time they punch their code in and the fluid flows through, if something was in the line and it jammed up the grinder pump, it stops. That's why, and then they try punching their code in again. That's why it's showing the small amounts of flow.
Okay, but what I'm asking is a normal truckload of effluent, what would it be? Just for my own curiosity.
8 to 10 cubes.
Okay, That's all I wanted to know.
But those
Thanks.
guys are hauling most of that stuff out of this side of Whitecourt, right down in those
Yes.
subdivisions there.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible that they could haul 0.4, like 4 cubes.
Yeah, if they get called out for an emergency or whatever, them people, they if they're only dumping at 0.4 of a cube, they still pay the per load fee for that.
Nick,
I just have one question based on the
this
content.
is the second question now.
Okay, second question. Based on the comment, and just for everybody that may be listening, could we explain what a cube is, please?
Cube is 220 gallons.
Okay, thank you.
Did you not take math?
Oh, I took math. I just wanted to make sure we're talking about cubes here. I'm just thinking there might be somebody else.
Okay, like a cubic yard would be a yard by a yard.
Yard by a yard. I realize that.
And
Yes.
I'm just George.
Just is any of these loads coming in overloaded? That they're damaging any infrastructure with this? I mean, some of them look like they're close to 12 cubes. Is that overloaded on them trucks?
They do have one tri-drive unit, Collins, and that would be their big loader, the big load for sure.
Yeah, they do have one here at 13. So
Yeah.
You're not on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not on?
No.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Just because across the room, not because you're on the mic.
Can you hear me through the mic?
Now we can, yes.
Bob said March 30th, 13.3 cubes.
Yeah.
He does not own a Triton.
No, I agree.
Where is the Rochford Lagoon in relation to Highway 43?
Just south or north of
North.
Rochford,
On that
go
angle.
up Range Road 80 by the CN storage yard, and then you're half a mile north there.
So there's
2-3 miles of gravel.
I think that was the idea, wasn't it, to get these SRSs around to different places and figure out what we're going to do with the sewage, because so far they've all, anywhere else in our county, the sewage, we've said that we're not making them follow road bans, and we're not doing this because it's an essential service. So that's something that we're going to have to decide how essential it is, and especially at certain times of the year. So we'll at least have some data going forward for that.
Just a comment. They follow gravel if nobody's watching.
And I agree with you, Mr. Chair. Once we get these units, hopefully recite, then we'll switch it instead of a per load. It'll accumulate some.
You need to get your mouthpiece closer to your mouth, I think, is your problem.
It's right there.
You and Stevie boy both. Steve's is stuck in his chin.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. Keeps cutting
Okay.
off. Sorry.
That's
But
enough.
anyway, that's what we're looking at. Just by going to a
Are you,
cost, it would be much beneficial to us, more beneficial to us.
Does that kind of answer some questions, Councilor Gablehouse? You're good? Okay, can we accept that for information, please? Lloyd? All against? Good. Okay, San Guido slide.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, request to waive permit fees, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a request from Ms. Beth Ann Jones that we waive her penalties for installing a porch and a sea can without permits. We are just recommending that you accept it for information. She, of all people, should be very familiar with the needs of getting permits, particular being that the county has dealt with her for the last year about how she purchased not having proper permits. So in our opinion, you accept it for information. We've established penalties for a reason, and we're of the opinion that she should pay them.
Okay. She put in a bunch of stuff and didn't get permits.
That's correct.
Oh, the lady with the. Yeah, okay, I know where I know where you're at now.
Yeah.
So I get a motion to accept this for information. Lloyd, against.
If you're accepting it for information, Lloyd, does that mean you don't want her to pay, or you want her to? I need to know what you're thinking before I vote.
Except for information, and let planning and development proceed as scheduled.
That would be to pay.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you.
All against? Carried. Okay. Sangudo slide.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I think Greg and I'll probably do this kind of jointly. Greg was doing a fair bit of work on this. And so we've got it here in front of council. We've looked at a few different options. One is to use of some lightweight fill. Option 2 would be to excavate and replace the slope reconstruction. Option 3 would be shear key and sheet pile wall, which is recommended, probably the best way to go. We can't start purchasing land down in there. We can't wait any longer. This project has been sitting for a year and a half, 2 years. I think Greg and was it Wood that was involved, did a fair bit of investigation into this slope. And they feel that the shear key and sheet pile wall would be the best way to go. Reconstruct the slope and get the drainage all fixed up. We have to look at moving the 3-phase power line. Fortis is working with us on that. They've agreed to move the line, so there will be no overhead power lines on that slope anymore. That is a main link into Sangudo. If that pole goes down, we could be without power for a few hours. So we have to get that 3-phase line out of there. They did all their engineering on it. We have to help and assist with servicing the bottom 2 trailers because they have to feed the power from the front there. So there'll be some private land power that needs to be put in. And look at getting this reconstructed and fixed up. It just doesn't look good coming into Sangudo. It's a real mess there. And I'm recommending that the total project cost would be around the $650,000 to repave and do the reconstruction of the slope and shear piles.
Yeah, I can just jump in quickly. So yeah, absolutely, Joe, those exactly. Again, we looked at 2 options: an option of either if we own the land, or options if we did not own the lands down below. As the timelines have gone, I think it's still a long shot that we would ever own those lands down below. So that's why there was these 3 options were outlaid to us. All 3 of the options without owning the lands down below are similar in costs, but come with different timelines and different levels of success. And so the Sheer Key one is the best level of success, and it is also the shortest timeline once we do get to construction, which I know is a bit of a moot point because we've been so long to get to here, but it will still get us rolling quicker.
Excavating and replacing. Can you hear me?
Anybody can if you unmute yourself.
All right. In regards to evacuation, excavation and replace, do we have a number we ballparking the 325, or do we have some estimates on that aspect as far as engineering and costs? Where are we getting these 325 from?
Those were from the report that was produced by Wood Consulting.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
So yes, to add up to your answer there, it does include any engineering required as we're moving forward, as well as the construction.
Okay.
Okay. So I need a motion to accept that for information right now is all, I believe. Mike,
I'd request that you approve proceeding with the project, and then the borrowing bylaw is actually on the agenda as well, so that we can actually get going,
okay,
if that's the plan.
okay. Well, I don't think we have another plan.
And Mr. Reeve, this is Mike Morton speaking. And as part of the motion, add it to as part of the 2020 capital budget, please.
Okay.
That's the way the motion reads.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Nick, okay. Against? Okay, good. There we go. Alrighty, let's take a 5-minute break here. Okay, I feel like welcome back, Cotter. Welcome back. Anyway, so can I get a motion to go into MPC, please? George, all in favor? I mean, against? Carried.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the lot line adjustment that was brought to MPC at the last meeting. We brought it back to the landowner about the requirements to connect to the sewer system in Rochford. After discussions, he'd indicate that he has no plans for expansion at the trading post. So an alternative that administration talked to them and our agreement is that you approve it as presented. The change from last meeting is he is required to install a connection for the new lot and register a caveat on the existing trading post that should they go and expand or develop, they will be required to connect to the sewer system. So a notification caveat requiring the connection to the utility at a later date.
Good. Makes sense to me. So can I get a motion for the recommendation? Oh. Boyd? Okay. Against? Okay, carried. Is that it?
That's all I have for NPC today.
Okay, and I see you got some other stuff coming, Noe.
Yep, just some ICS.
Perfect. Okay, can I get a motion to get out of MPC? Nick? On against? Okay, carried. Appointment of weed inspectors.
Hello, everybody. So this is just a requirement through both the weed and pest acts that we appoint our staff accordingly. So the recommendation is in front of you with all of their names, and it's just a request for council to appoint them.
Okay. Ross?
I'll go with option one to appoint all the Stacy Berry. Am I going? Well, they're all there. You can see them.
Okay. Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay, state of emergency. Is Carol on this call? No? Okay.
I don't believe so.
No, that's all right. So anyway, yesterday afternoon, of course, I got a call from Jim Benedict, and that they were going to declare a state of emergency. And Matt, you're there. I think you guys hummed and hawed about it until about midnight before you made your mind up, didn't you?
They issued one and then retracted it within 2 hours.
Oh, so you're not part of it, or you are part of it?
Sunset Point is not part of it.
Okay. And why would you want to be when you got a $25 million sewer system that's screwing up? Why wouldn't you part of that? You sure wouldn't want to be part of a state of emergency. You can pass it on to your mayor for me. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. But anyway, I talked to Jim, and they're having a little bit of trouble in a couple of streets down there. But I think one of the biggest reasons was the Tri-Village and the amount of infiltration and water they're taking on. And I talked to Carol, but I did mention to Jim that if there was anything we could do to help them out, that we would do that. So I don't know. That's what I was going to ask Carol, if it's something we should have a motion here on council. So administratively or whatever, they don't know. It doesn't have to come back. They can just send people to help. Or, oh, I'm not. Mike, what's your, or Joe?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think a motion would be fine to say that we assist anywhere possible, and then as requests come in, we just make them work. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to do too. Joe?
Yeah, I'll just let you know, I did get a call from Castle Island yesterday, and we had a bunch of sandbags at the shop that were in from, I think they've been there for about 8 years. So we did deliver them to Castle Island this morning for their use. They've got just a couple on Castle Island, I guess, that are from the wind. Yesterday was probably the worst, but they've actually, we've given them sandbags anyway for their use.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe, just for clarification, if they have declared a soul, it does give them extraordinary powers. So anything that they requested, we would pretty much be obligated to provide if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carol just come in, actually. So we can...
Good morning, everybody. I just heard through listening online, so I thought I would pop in. Pardon me. There's been no official request from Alberta Beach or from Val Quentin at this point in time, other than, like Joe has said, they've offered sandbags. And in speaking with Matt, there is no further need on the Sunset Point one. Looking at the news this morning too, that the water levels have started to go down, so the potential for us to be involved any further may not come.
I might be more worried about their cleanup when it comes around, so that's why I don't want them bothering me or any of the rest of the council. If they just tell them to go administratively, it's simpler.
Absolutely, and there's no reason why they can't. They can connect directly with either Trista or myself, or with Mike even, to say we need some help when the time comes after their water recedes enough where they can start looking at what the damages might actually be, because they won't know.
I guess we could. The water's coming down. We could go blow some beaver dams that are giving me grief.
Yes.
Anyway, so my question was just, and you probably missed that when you were walking from there to here, is just, but I think we'll still put a motion forward just so you guys help however, right?
Okay.
And then it's easier. It's clean and it's clear. So, Steve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Against? Okay, carried.
Thank you.
And Jim Benedict just sent me a picture of the weir, and it's got about 10 feet out of it. So he figures the water's dropping, but looks like the same 10 feet that was out of it when I was there yesterday. So. The mighty weir.
What weir?
Oh, don't start that, just us. Okay. That's all we need to talk about there. Mike Martin.
Good morning, Mr. Reeve and members of council. Am I coming through okay this morning?
Huh?
I like always the same test, Joe. Thank you. Good morning. This morning I'm just presenting the first quarter to April 30th operating report. So we added April in because we felt it was just more timely and up to date for council's information. Technically, we're 1/3 of the year in already. So from a variance perspective and point of view, we're looking around 33%. So that's the benchmark we use for identifying variances that don't come within the range of, say, 10% or a significant dollar value. And I'll go through them, and there's explained on each page. On the table of contents, that's on your first page. It's just basically two components it's broken into. The operating components are pages 2 to 26. And then the capital components are pages 27 to 30. So I'm just going to speak on those two items, really. Going down to page 2 is the operating report summary. So this is just basically a line-by-line income statement by department. Gives you a pretty good high-level view of where things are at. It's just one line where the number is by department, and basically gives you the variance percentage as to where things are at. I don't get too concerned about the surplus or deficit at the bottom. it shows basically the taxes aren't billed. So that's what that bottom line figure shows. So you can look at it from a cash flow point of view and say, okay, well, that from the beginning of the year, we're probably down in cash, or our bank balance went down about $5 million. That's the way I would look at that report. That was on page 2. So page 3, we start to get into the variances more. The general municipal services, so that's basically where the tax revenue and requisitions are housed. So some of the significant variances that are noted are penalties, fines, and interest are already at 69%. And that's due to the high or the low collection of commercial accounts. So we're still struggling with our industry collections. So as a result, our penalties are high. As you can see on the top line, net taxation. So we essentially billed nothing to date. Billings were actually done in May. So obviously, as of April, there was virtually none. The minimum amount there, you're showing just some adjustments from some billings. Transfers from reserves. So 111. So that's at 616,000. That represents the funding of the 2019 deficit to balance the budget. And then the transfer to reserves on line item 211, 781,000 plus change are transfers completed to date, which includes the 2019 budgeted deficit carry forward. Next page, on page 4, is the legislative department. That's you guys. You want to be around 33%, and that's pretty bang on when you look at you're roughly just above that, 34%. So there's no variances to report. Next page up, page 5, administration. So just one variance of note was contract services were just a little bit low, and could be just the timing of expenses, and that's where audit fees, legal, other contract services would be coded, and where it's at showing at 22%. So it's a little on the low side, but administration seems to be holding its expenses pretty well. Next page, page 6, that's cemeteries. Not much to report there. It's a small budget. It's running a small surplus due to the cemetery assistant grants not been issued as at the time of the report. So it's basically just a timing issue there, showing a small surplus of 492, but that'll change. Next page, economic development, page 7. Not much to report here either. Contract and general services are only at 8%, and the reserve transfers to fund those projects are at 4%, are both low and will increase as the projects start to launch throughout the course of the year. So it's just lower for this time of year. And it's just because the projects haven't started. Now we get into the community and protective services, starting with fire. Couple variants of note, sales and user charges are only at 15%. And this is due to less traffic and less motor vehicles and collisions where we've had to respond and then subsequently bill. So we're a little bit low there. On the expense side, salaries and wages and benefits are low at about 29%, contract services at 16%, materials and goods at 15%. The categories are also low because of COVID, but also there's been a wet spring, less grass fires, and therefore less need for all of those services to deploy for the purposes of providing those services, and therefore the expenses are low. Page 9, disaster and emergency services. It's a pretty small budget. There's no variances to report on this at this point. It's low at this time of the year, but it's a small budget line item as well. Enforcement services, page 10. Bank charges, interest and other. It's a small line item, but it's gone over. That's because of the insurance required to have Onaway, Ross Haven, Castle Island agreements, which was not originally added to the budget. So unfortunately it went over, but it will be absorbed within the rest of the department. So that's how we'll handle that overage. Contract and general services, that's one of the big line items. It's overall low variance at 7%. There's low because of the low enforcement cost line item in there. So therefore it's dragging down the percentage to about 7%. Safety department, a few more, just the only variance of note is the materials, goods, and supplies. A few more safety supplies being purchased or charged under the safety budget. So we'll continue to monitor. You can see we're at about 42%. We should be around 33%. So it's a little on the high side. Just bring that to council's attention. Special transportation, only not much going on at this point on the revenue side. On the expense side, so the grants to organizations, contributions, and donations is zero. So it's a one-time expenses. So this hasn't been completed as of the reporting date. So that's at $87,000, and you can see a 0% line item. Fcss, Family and Community Support Services. So just overall note on this one is that it shows as a program surplus of about $14,000. And this is lower due to the timing and program cancellations due to COVID. So we're showing, it's just the timing of expenses being shown. So that should straighten itself out as we go throughout the year. But right now, it's showing a small surplus. On to Ag Services, that's page 14 in front of you. So a few observations and variances to note. So grants revenue are only showing 3% as not recognized as of the reporting date. Materials, goods, and supplies at 9.7%. Contract services at 12%. This is typically low because of where we are in the year compared to budget and due to the seasonal nature of expenses. So we expect to see these much higher in the second quarter as the programs roll out. That's not uncommon. Grants to organizations, contributions, and donations. So this donation to West Central Forage for $21,000 was completed, and that was the majority of that budget line item, and that's why it's showing at about 68%. And then under other expenses, student and producer bursaries we paid out earlier in the year, which was the majority of the budget for 2020, and that's why it's at 66%. So that's why they're on the high side. In the recreation department, again, it's a very seasonal department. Of course, the sales and user charges will fire up as we get into camping season. We'll see how high it goes this year compared to budget. We could be definitely impacted by COVID, but as you can see, as the reporting date, we're only showing about 16,000 there. On the net taxation, so that's that special rec tax levy. So of course it wasn't billed until May rather, and so it's showing 0 right now. And then on the line item, contract or grants to organizations, I should say, the special recreation tax that was billed in May after the reporting date, and therefore the requisitions were not paid out yet. So that's why we're sitting low on that line item. And then on the contract and general services, that's at 4%. That's low expense year to date compared to budget due to the seasonal nature of the expenses, of course. And these expect to be much higher starting in the second quarter. Next page, library services. So there's no significant variances to report. About half of the contribution or grants to organizations and contributions have been paid. Now on to the last part is infrastructure, planning, and services. Starting with the GIS, Geographic Information Systems. So the only variance on this one to note is the salaries, wages, and benefits are a little bit low due to the timing of hiring a summer employee. But the note here is that it may not happen. We haven't discussed this internally whether we will in fact take a summer student on here, but it's probably very unlikely it may happen. So that variance will stay fairly low. Next department's our biggest department in the county, that being road transportation and fleet. And there's a few variances to note here. Of course, the grant revenue is showing 0. Sales and user charges, the revenue is low due to the collection of dust control fees and custom work, and it's mainly due because of the seasonal nature of that. So we'll see it a lot higher. It's only at 12%. On the expense side, so debt principal payments are low due to the paving project loan not received until May. So we're looking at a timing difference there. Bank charges, interest, and others. So the insurance premiums are a little higher than budgeted. Also, insurance for Woodlands County vehicles weren't accounted for. So may likely put that over budget, but we'll keep an eye out for that one. It's at 46, 47% right now. So just a line item to keep an eye out for. On the other ones, are material goods supplies at 13%. Contract services are only at 9%, and that's low expense year to dates compared to budget due to the seasonal nature of expenses. And of course, these expect to be much higher in the coming months, starting in the second quarter. Page 19 is the airport, and there's no significant variances to report. Page 20 is lagoons. The only variances to report are the net taxation and transfer to reserves. So the wastewater tax lagoon wasn't shown in the budget because it wasn't billed until May, so that's why it's showing 0. On the expense side, contract and general services. So the operating payment to the North 40 Lagoon Commission had not been completed by the time of this report, so it's just a timing issue. And then the transfer to reserves, the 239,000 plus, not yet completed as the special wastewater tax hadn't been received at the time of the report, and so we'll show in quarter 2 that transfer. Water, page 21. Of significant on the variances is the materials, goods, and supplies, showing at 86%. So this is going to go over budget. This is due to the timing of the 2019 pump purchase at the Sanguda water treatment plant carried forward into 2020. So this is a timing issue. It should have been 2019, unfortunately. It's one of those ones that slipped through the audit crack. As this is a self-funded utility, this overage will be funded through the water reserve. So it has to be picked up at some point. So when that count goes over budget, we'll trigger that transfer. Sewer systems, page 22. So this is just an overall thing. Overall, the budget's in a surplus situation, and this is due to the timing and annual expenses not allocated at the timing of the report. So we're sitting at about a $6,000 surplus in the overall sewer systems, and that'll change over the coming months. Solid waste, function 43. So the only variances is the sales and user charges. So the recognition of revenue billed in May will show up in quarter 2. So we're showing 0, essentially a small year to date, only at 2%. On contract and general services on the expense side, so it's a little bit low, and it's based on where we are in the year, so it's a timing difference. Again, we'll see that come up. We're only at 13%. So. Department 61, Development and Planning. So we're on the sales and user charges fee, we're at 15%, and that's a little low, showing the seasonal nature of these user fees. So we're expecting that to pick up, and Matt kind of already reported that in Q2. Things are starting to happen and more permits to be taken and so forth. So we'll see those revenues go up. Contract and general services only at 2%, so that's a lot of special project work going to be starting here, and will begin wrapping up in the second quarter. Towers, page 25. Overall, contract and general services are at 9%. Overall total is low due to the timing of projects not being fully launched at the time of this report. So again, that'll change over the course of time. Page 26, we're almost done operating now. We're on engineering. So showing the no expenditures to date. That's why we're showing 0% on contract and general services due to the infrastructure plan hasn't been started, or at least hasn't been expended yet. And lo and behold, that's it for the operating report. So I'll just go through the capital report, and then we'll take any questions if you have any at the end of this. So just flipping on to page 27, here's the summary, basically. Starting with we'll flip over onto page 28. This is just a high-level summary of the infrastructure and planning services on the capital budget. So total capital budget of about $7 million. The actual spent $1,101,270. So that's what's actually been spent. The remaining variance of which is about 84%. And the funding of those sources, $43,746 in debt, reserves $3,800, and grants $603,724. So that's what's been funded to date. In 2020 variances, in 2019, there was a motion to amend the 2019 budget for the bridge projects. The motion was missed when the budget was approved, therefore in April, and has been amended for this reporting period. So not to worry, the 2020 budget was increased by set $238,750, which should be funded through the federal gas tax and MSI. Actually, it's also programmed. So that's how the funding of those projects will have been picked up. And just on where we are to date with respect to the projects. So in progress, the Range Road 65, Highway 43 to the admin building is in progress. Bridge files 13,233, 72,270, 74,83, 99,65, 13,733, and 8817 are all in progress. Also, Township Road 590, Range Road 72 to Range Road 84 in progress. Sanguda water meter replacement is in progress, and one of the graders has been purchased. So that's what's been in progress on infrastructure and planning. Not started are the county entrance signs, Wild Truck Fill, Bridge files 13,367, Bridge files 71772, 76539, and 78882. In addition to that, haven't been started, Range Road 33, Alberta Beach to Township 535, and the Corsair Cove emergency access. So those are the infrastructures that are projects that haven't been started. To page 29, and that's the community and protective services. So total capital budget at $330,725. Just only $39.51 has been spent to date, so we still have a variance of about $326,000 in projects to come, and that funding sources come from reserves. Back to page 27. So the community and protective services. So in progress is the paddle expansion phase 3, the SARD campground phase 2, the outdoor ed center renovations, and the spray truck are all in progress. Not started is the ERC front pad replacement, the East Station cistern, the East Station Sea-Doo replacement, the fire education inflatable house, and the rehab warming and decon room have not been started. And on the legislative and corporate services side, the Onaway Regional Medical Center that's been being deferred to next meeting has not been started as well. And with that, Council, I would like to just conclude my financial report for Q1. Is there any questions?
How's your cake looking?
Lauren.
Yes, I just wanted to say, Mike, that is a very comprehensive, clear, and a knowledgeable report that you just gave. I haven't heard one of them for a while. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Olsvik. Appreciate that.
Okay, can we get a, yeah. Can I get a motion to accept it for information? And Lauren, all in favor or against, I should say. Yeah, good job, Mike. it was just about understood what you were talking about there. And that's
Okay.
good for me. No, it
That's
was really good.
Thank you, Reeve Blakeman. Appreciate that.
I like just saying things like that to keep the people that are online awake, see if they're actually paying attention to what's going on.
That's right. Thanks.
And council.
Yes.
So there's no questions. Okay, then let's carry on. Mike.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The first item up here is to reinstate the June 3rd MPC meeting. So next Wednesday, require a motion to do as we cancel due to the FCM that isn't obviously happening.
Nick. Okay, against. Okay, there we go.
Thank you. Next up, correspondence from St. Anne Gas. This is accept for info, and it's just basically letting us know that they're looking to invest for approximately $2 million this year in some work and using local contractors and suppliers.
Okay, well, let's accept that for George. Against. This is my favorite correspondence from AUPE.
Correspondence attached that we work together with the GOA to make sure that the jobs aren't cut and people continue to work. So the letter is attached for your pleasure.
Information. Nick. Against. Okay. What?
Next up, we have CN, 100 Years in Canada. It's I guess a report provided by them to all their neighbors who they deal with, and we are one of them. So it's attached for your pleasure as well.
Lauren. Okay, against.
All right, next up, we have the mayor of Sturgeon County provided response to our contribution of the $5,000 to the Villeneuve Landing Network, they call it, for the airport area. And so with our contribution, we'll be entitled to receive much documentation and reports and studies that are being done. And so this is just a thank you letter that was received. And I'm not sure if Councillor Gelich wants to add to that, but it's just info.
Do you want to move it for information? Nick, against? Okay.
And then the last one here, Mr. Chair, we deferred to next week.
Okay. Which we did on the agenda, so we don't need a motion there. So, okay, bylaws and policies. Sangudo slide borrowing bylaw. Who's running with that one? Joe, Mike Martin, Joe Duplessis.
Hi, Reeve Blakeman. It's Mike Morton. I'll speak to this one. So this was just with respect to following up from the project that was approved this morning. So the bylaw before you is, and the recommended action is to give all three readings to bylaw 21-2020 to borrow up to a maximum of $650,000 and the term not to exceed 5 years for the Sangudo slide within the hamlet of Sangudo. And of course, the borrowing is for the repairs of the Sangudo slide. The repayment of the short-term borrowing will come from general municipal taxes. And as per Section 257 of the Municipal Government Act, this expenditure for the capital property must be included in the budget, which it is now. And borrowing of 5 years or less does not require advertising.
Okay. So can I get first reading? Steve? Against? Second reading? George? Against? Unanimous consent? Lloyd? Against? Third reading? Ross? Against? Okay, there you go. Done. Done. Fix away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there was an error in the attachment. The ICF for Birch Cove was attached in error to this, so we still require a decision on the Summer Village of Birch Cove's ICF. So if you would allow it, I would request that we approve the Birch Cove ICF agreement as presented. I received okay to approve the Birch Cove and Valquinton ICFs from their communities last week. And so I must have in accident linked the one document to the wrong file and the other accordingly. But since it's before you, I'd ask that you approve the Birch Cove ICF as presented.
Sorry, just as far as a case in point, because we're talking about Birch Cove, but the agenda reads Val Quentin. Do we need to make changes to our agenda to accommodate?
The alternative could be, if you'd like, I can correct the items and bring them back next week. If you just want to accept it for information. They're almost identical except for their references to roads. But that is my mistake. I was working on them both at the same time and I uploaded them in error.
Yeah.
I think
move it to next week just to keep everything straight because
yeah, let's get it right.
Yep, my apologies.
They're so important. So we can but we can move you got Val Quentin's today, is that right?
That's correct. So if you could defer that one.
So we're defer Val Quentin's and then next week we'll have Val Quentin and Birch Cove.
That's correct.
All right. Okay.
Thanks,
motion.
Yes.
Should get a motion to do that. Nick, okay. Against? Already. Silver Sands ICF.
So this is the ICF for Silver Sands that is actually correctly attached. I am recommending that we approve it as presented.
Okay. Lauren? Against? Okay, there we go. Now we have West Cove.
So same situation, same type of agreement. They have approved it now, and so we're just knocking them all off.
That's probably not a good way to put it because of different conversations. But anyway, can I get a motion to accept the West Cove ICF?
Also move.
Nick, against? Okay, there you go. Public auction property tax sale date. Rob?
Here, no, just use one of the headsets. Go ahead.
It's all right. This whole office is technically challenged. Don't feel special. No, that's not turned on now. I can't hear you. Joe, shut you off. Give you the headphones and then shut you off.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reeve. So the public auction property tax sale date policy is up for periodic review. And we are recommending that the County Council rescind policy 245, property tax sale, as presented, and further approve policy 03-010-004, property auction, property tax sale date as presented. Again, as I said earlier, the policy is up for periodic review. The policy has been updated to provide clarity to the tax sale process. This includes the conditions that must be met before the property may be offered for auction, what the proceeds of the auction are used for, and what the reserve bid will be. The date of the auction has not changed from the last Friday in November if auction is required. The options are that the County Council rescinds policy 245, property tax sale, as presented, and further approve policy 03-010-004, property auction, public auction property tax sale date as presented. I'm in trouble with English today, sorry. Option 2 is that the County Council rescinds policy 245, property tax sale, as presented, and further approves policy 03-010-004, public auction property tax sale, with the following amendments, or that the County Council accepts the policy public auction property tax sale date as information.
Well, we might as well set it, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot better than the old one.
Well, so could I get a motion to rescind the, well, I can't read it from there.
We'd rescind, basically the County Council rescinds policy 245 and further approve policy 03-010-004.
Okay.
Okay, also move.
Okay, against? Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Then, why still on?
Business Development Incentive Program.
That would also be me, Mr. Reeve. So the recommendation is that the County Council rescind policy 232-3, the Business Development Incentive Program, and further approve the updated policy 03-010-003, Business Development Incentive Program, effective May 28th, 2020. The policy, the Business Development Incentive Program, is up for periodic review. The wording of this policy has been clarified to specify that only those properties assessed under the small business assessment class would qualify for the incentive. The options are that the County Council rescind policy 232-3, the Business Development Incentive Program, and further approve the updated policy 03-010-003, Business Development Incentive Program, effective today, state 28th. Option 2 is that the County Council rescind policy 23, Business Development Incentive Program, and further approve the updated policy 03100 or 0100 Development Program, effective today, with the following amendments, or that the County Council accepts the updated policy Business Development Incentive Program as information. Then we look at the policy, the older policy. It stated to provide an incentive for commercial business, primarily within Lac St. Anne County, to develop by providing property tax relief for the first 5 years of the operation. And the guidelines had said that the policy will apply to new property assessments under land and improvement categories that are assigned a 202 assessment class, commercial improved for new development. That has been changed to now read to provide an incentive for businesses operating primarily within Lac St. Anne County, developed by providing property tax relief in the first 5 years of operation. And the guidelines now read This policy will apply to new property development that is assessed under the small business assessment class. The incentive will be achieved by following, etc.
Okay. Lauren?
Here, Mike.
Rob, the number of these small businesses, they were all notified they have to fill out for the taxation purposes that they have to, this is the other program for the small business under that, the small business tax category. So, you know, you have the 5-year progression for new assessment, but the current assessment where they're available for the 25% reduction.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I'm going to take these off and try to listen without. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Okay, so you know, I mean, under the small business category, you mean the two programs. The one program is for new assessment and the 5-year graduation, but then it's the current small businesses that have access to the small business, the 25% reduction on the commercial mill rate for tax purposes for this year. So they can still file this. Can they till I guess if somebody's missed it, so because it has to be done every year. Okay, and with that, I'll move his report for information.
Well, we want to rescind the.
Well, that's what I mean. We rescind that. We
want to rescind 3232-3, and we want to put into place 03.010.003. Okay, yes. Is that your motion, Mr. Roswick? All right. Against? Okay, carried. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session. Lloyd? Okay. All in favor or all against? Okay,